My brothers and sisters, this morning we hear the good news that has been recorded for us by Matthew. On that day, Jesus went out of the house and sat down by the sea. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd stood along the shore. He spoke to them at length in parables, saying, for instance, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky ground where there was little soil. It sprang up at once because the soil was not deep, but when the sun rose, it was scorched, and it withered for lack of roots. Some seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up, and it choked it out. But some seed fell on rich soil and produced fruit, 100, 60, or 30-fold. Whoever has ears ought to hear. Jesus went on to explain the parable. Hear then the parable of the sower. The seed sown on the path is one who hears the word of the kingdom without understanding it, and the evil one comes and steals it away, what was sown in their heart. The seed sown on rocky ground is the one who hears the word, receives it with joy, but has no root and lasts just a short time. When trials and tribulations come because of the word, he immediately falls away. The seed sown among thorns is the one who hears the word, but the worldly anxiety and lure of riches chokes the word, and it bears no fruit. But the seed sown on rich soil is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields 100, 60, or 30-fold. The gospel of Christ. Praise be to you, O Christ. Please be seated. So good morning, everyone. We were invited to a party last night. Our neighbor turned 50 at Christmas. On his birthday is December 25th. And because his birthday is on Christmas Day, he sort of gets shorted, on his birthday. But his 50th was celebrated yesterday in a surprise party at the house, which we turned out to find out that he knew about anyway. So much for a surprise. However, the party was held in the neighbor's backyard, and they put up a really nice tent, and the food was great and everything. And I don't know, there was maybe 30 or 40 of us there. But all around the landscape area, you saw all the vegetables that they had planted. They had basil plants that were huge, and they must have had about a dozen tomato plants, and they had peppers growing, and they had other things that in different lots of land around the property. It looks as though she set it up so that depending on how the sun fell, she knew exactly where to put what plants, who needs more sun than somebody else. Anyway, looking at this, you could see, she also had lettuce too. You could also see that, like, in the course of their summer, they would be harvesting, a fair amount of food that they would be able to use at their own tables. And as some of you have heard, the fear now with salmonella or whatever it is on some of the fruit and vegetables. There's a big warning out now. We have to make sure we wash all of our fruits and vegetables. But as you looked around, I was staring at this one tomato plant, and it was just in front of me from where I was sitting. I could see it on the side. And I was thinking to myself, this parable, like, does she expect to get 100 tomatoes out of the one plant? Well, of course not. I mean, that would be a ridiculous amount. Well, okay, what about 60? Well, even that would be a lot of tomatoes off of one plant. How about 30? Even that's pretty much a lot of tomatoes off of one plant. You got to remember, in this gospel, Jesus is talking to an agricultural society. His audience knows all about farming. This is what they do. This is how they provide for themselves. And so when the seed is being sown, if you get 4 to 5-fold, it's considered an enormous crop. And yet what Jesus is talking about is that the seed of the Word of God brings about 30, 60, or 100-fold. And that group of people sitting there must have listened to this and heard this and were astounded that God could be putting forth seed that would produce so much. And of course, it's because the seeds fell from the hands of the Creator. And so the Creator himself is endowing the seeds to grow and to give root and to produce to such great amounts. But the audience would have sat there, and the the first thing they would have thought about is, how the seed is sown on good soil and produces such a great amount. Perhaps you were like me. I was trying to figure out this week what kind of dirt I was. Like, where was the seed and how did it land, inside of me in the course of a day, a week, or a month, right, over the course of my life? And it was interesting here, and perhaps you did this too, thinking, which one am I? The seed sown on the path is the one who hears the word of God without understanding it. Evil comes, steals it away. The seed sown on rocky ground is the one who hears the word, receives it with joy, but when tribulation comes, they abandon it. The seed sown among thorns are the ones that the word takes root, grows, but then we get displaced by anxiety and concerns and everything else, and we forget whose seed we really are, and we get choked out by the roots of anxiety and stress in our life. And then finally, the seed sown on rich soil bears enormous fruit. I found myself somewhere between the thorns and good soil, somewhere in between those, because I think just like everyone else, we very easily forget that this word has been sown inside of us. The word is meant to be utilized. It's actually meant to be used on our part in addressing our world. Our life is meant to give example to the word, and for us, of course, that means the word made flesh, Jesus the Christ. The one part of this gospel that every single person in that audience would have been absolutely frustrated with, that they would not have understood at all, that it is the one component that shocked them so, was that this sower was so incredibly generous that he sowed seeds where he knows it's not going to produce. A sower has a field. Around the field, there's a track, say. There's a place where wagons would go. In our day, it would be areas where, the trucks would drive around the field, to be able to reap and to harvest. But there would be a section that would be outside of the actual field you're sowing in, and yet that is where the sower is also sowing seed. See, we get caught up on the fact of that what kind of soil are we? And I'll leave that for you this week to reflect upon, and then you could tell me next week what kind of soil you are. But I'm not really sure that's the essence or the heart of the story. I think Jesus' focus is on the generosity of the sower, that the sower doesn't care what kind of dirt you are. The sower is willing to take the chance for you to bear fruit. And remember, sowing is not a once-in-a-lifetime process. It's something that happens seasonally over and over and over again. And so for you and I, we might find ourselves to be rocky and shallow soil, but the following year we might be deeper. It doesn't mean as though we missed anything, because the sower comes out year after year. God comes out season after season and wants to impart upon us the seed of the word so that it bears fruit in our life. Not simply that we give witness to his love and compassion in our life, but that we actually act on the word, and that we, you and I, produce good fruit. When Donna comes home and she talks about the kids at school, you hear the kids who are generous and kind and they help one another. And then you hear of others who are still growing in building character. And so some of them, tend to be maybe, a little mouthy. Some of them tend to be a little heavy-handed, maybe, whatever, with one another. But the interesting component here is that for us, we're actually being asked and challenged by this, that God has already instilled the word, the seed inside of us. What have you done with it? How much have you grown? Have you grown at all? Do you consider it important to grow or not? And so the generosity of the sower is what really caught me back. I think, given any point in time, I can move from different types of soil, in the course of my life, in the course of a day, for that matter. But in the end, God's generosity is such that he's willing to sow upon you, even if your soil is not the best it can be at this moment. And see, this is where we have to consider, and this is the part that everyone gets challenged with, is that Jesus' communication about the Father, about the personality and characteristics of the Father, defies all of our understanding and expectations. No farmer would go out with seed and throw it so haphazardly because what they want is the return. So they're going to be conscious about where they put that soil, where they put that seed, and that soil is good and can bear fruit properly and appropriately and bear some sort of return. No farmer is going to sow seed in areas that he does not feel will produce any type of root, but yet at the same time, our God, as presented by and given example to by Jesus Christ, is a God who just doesn't care about the rewards or the fold. He cares more about the fact that the seed is being sown. And so for you and I, as many times as we hear the good news over and over again, as many times as we gather in the course of a weekend and come here on a Sunday, or we have moments of prayer in our life throughout the course of a week, in every one of those moments, we are being asked and challenged, how much have you produced? What kind of fruit would you say you have returned? And so you and I are stuck today because the problem with the parable is we do have to ask ourselves, how much have we produced out of the word that has been given to us? Are we loving, caring, compassionate with one another? Are we gentle and merciful? And probably most startling, and this is the part where I think for us in our society is the sticking point, how generous are we with our gifts, our seed with one another? How generous are we with our time? How generous are we with, the gifts and the talents that God has given us? How much have we used these for other people? I woke up this morning because at that party last night, there was something that bothered me. We have a neighbor, Bill, across the street, and Bill recently, had a hip replacement or two. What was it, one hip? Had her hip replacement. And so, his wife, Kathleen, is an amazing witness to caregiver love and compassion. I've never seen a woman, this woman's got to be in her late 70s, caring for an 80-something-year-old man, and her entire life right now is dedicated and committed to him. He's not able to walk, so she brings a wheelchair. And yet she came to the party, she parked across the street, she put Bill into the wheelchair, and this frail, thin, elderly woman dragged Bill across to come into the backyard, and to come and to be with everyone else. And I was thinking to myself, what kind of return is she giving for the gifts and the blessings that she has? That she recognizes the blessing that her husband is and cares for him without question and is always there. That type of example really took me back. And then the part that I'm really upset with myself about is there was a point in the time when we're all talking at our table that I glanced over and I noticed that Kathleen and Bill were sitting by themselves at this table. It was before dinner, and I'm sure they were sitting with people later, but I noticed that they were sitting by themselves, and I did not get up to go over and sit with them. And look, for most people, who would think about that? But at the same time, they were there by themselves, and we were all at one table, and I missed the opportunity to have my seed show forth and to be present to them because nobody else was sitting there at that moment in time. I should have been able to get up and move over to do that, but I was busy talking with my friends. Now, some of this, I'm not saying it's a grave sin. I'm saying that it's a missed opportunity. What I'm saying is you and I, should be looking for opportunities like this in our life that we're able to actually act upon the seed that has been sown inside of us. That we actually look for the opportunities to bear fruit. because that's what Jesus is asking us to do. In the end, the sower, God, is going to ask, the seed has been sown in your life. What have you produced? And for us, it has to be looking for every moment, I believe, as followers of Jesus Christ. We have to be looking for every moment where we can engage and show love and presence and attention and love to somebody else. It simply has to be the end all of what our production looks like. When we are harvested, we should be able to stand before the sower and say, with the seed that you have given me, the word, which we have all heard. We all know the Gospels. We've talked about this incessantly. This isn't anything new. We know what the challenges are to the gospel. Forget about traditions. I'm talking about the gospel. What Jesus did, how Jesus did it, how he worked, how he acted. In this parable, that is what Jesus is talking about, the seed that has been sown. What have you and I done with it? And is it possible that we haven't dug too deep to have it rooted in our own life? Do we skip over it? Is it the thing that we just do on a Sunday? Is it just so we come here, we hear this, we want words of encouragement so we could leave and live our lives feeling a little bit more at peace, a little bit more settled? But I'm not really sure following Jesus Christ is just about us. We're not in this for some sort of self-help relationship with God. It has to be that we're experiencing from God a love and compassion that we've never felt, and then we take that love and compassion and we sow it into the world. But for you and I think very often we get stuck somewhere along the way, and we forget to look for the opportunities. This sower, God, continues to sow everywhere, and he doesn't care, because what's most important is that the seed has been scattered. We are recipients of that seed. What will we produce this week?